In this video we're gonna discuss information that every man should know. We're gonna specifically talk about hair loss, but there's some basic endocrinology that every man should know. So if you stumbled upon this video because you were looking for hair loss information, because you already have some, good, you found a video that is not full of shit. And if you think, man, I don't have any hair loss, maybe I'm never gonna have hair loss because my ancestors are nice, maybe they're gonna be the day where you look in the mirror and think, fuck, I'm starting to lose my hair. And then you should have this information in your head so you can decide and know what you can do and what you should not do. So jumping right into it, I briefly want to discuss what types of hair loss there are to kind of know the basics around everything. So starting with the main topic of this video, it's gonna be androgenic alopecia. So this can result in male pattern baldness and also female pattern baldness, because also females, through genetics and hormones, specifically androgens, specifically after the menopause where you can have high levels of androgens as a female, can result in hair loss. So then we have another relatively common type, telogen effluvium. So we're gonna discuss this a little bit in the beginning because I think it's pretty important to understand. And then we have commonly some autoimmune disorders. Autoimmune. And there's most commonly alopecia areata. Which is basically a form where you start to have like circle like hair loss, kind of. This can be in varying severities. So I mean, if it's like a not that severe case, you can treat it with some steroids, but if it's like very severe, you cannot do much, if anything at all. But this is autoimmune, which basically means your own immune system is attacking your hair follicles. There are some other forms to that, to autoimmune diseases, but this is gonna be too complicated. And basically these three are, I'd say 95% of hair loss cases. So we're gonna not go any further with that. So now, directly getting into the first type that I want to discuss, telogen effluvium. And for that, we basically have to understand that the hair is divided into 3 growth cycles. And this is starting with the anagen phase, also called the growth phase. And this typically lasts 3 to 7 years. And this is basically the normal growing phase of your hair. When you see it outside, it's growing, and the normal phase. And then we have the catagen phase, which lasts around 10 days. And this is basically the transition phase. It's called the transition phase, and in this phase, basically the hair strand is kind of dividing from the hair follicle itself. So, and then it leads to the last stage, which is called the telogen phase, where the name telogen effluvium comes from. Telogen. And this typically lasts for around 3 months. some people also divide this phase, telogen phase, in the telogen and exodus phase, I think. So, but basically this is called the shedding phase, and this is where the hair strand basically falls out. So, so now telogen effluvium is basically just hair follicles being prematurely pushed into the shedding telogen phase, which leads to basically hair loss. So you have like a lot of hair falling out and more than usual, which is resulting in less hair density and hair loss. So the main thing about this to understand is that this is not a permanent form of hair loss. So you basically have intact hairs that get pushed into the telogen phase, and this can be through stress, through drugs, through malnutrition or whatever. And then you have like more hair in the resting phase. This is a difference to, for example, androgenic alopecia, where the hair follicles basically die if it's long enough and untreated. So now we already get into the main topic of this video, androgenic alopecia, specifically male pattern baldness. Okay, so what this basically is, it is a genetic predisposition. So genetic predisposition. So, and this means that the hair follicles on the top of your head, on your scalp, they are sensitive to androgens, in which the androgens basically bind to the androgen receptor, and then gradually, another important thing, it is gradual. So they gradually miniaturize the hair follicles. Okay, so this is again the difference to the telogen effluvium, where you basically have an immediate hair loss. To this is like a gradual process. So when you have androgenic alopecia, and then let's see, you first notice it in the mirror or whatever, then it's already been going on for at least a couple of months. Okay. In the male body, the most androgenic hormone is called dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. So probably a lot of you have already heard like DHT. Why? Because it's the most androgenic hormone in the body and has the highest affinity to bind to the androgen receptor. So in the next part we're going to go over the treatment options, and then there's one treatment option where we're going to talk a little bit more about DHT and enzymes, etc. So now, what treatment options do we have for androgenic alopecia? So I'm going to list them all, and we're going to discuss them in a little bit more detail after that. So first, most commonly used, we have 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. Then we have direct androgen receptor antagonists, which means basically drugs that bind to the androgen receptor without causing a gene transcription, and basically blocking the receptor for the androgens. So androgen receptor antagonists. So, and lastly, we have minoxidil which basically is its own category because this is the only compound in this category. But yeah, we're gonna talk about this later. So these are basically the treatment options we have. So now we're gonna directly discuss 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. So now beginning with 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, which is basically the most commonly used mechanism to decrease the androgenicity. So what is 5-alpha reductase? A little bit hard to pronounce. This is basically an enzyme in the body. There are actually 3 subcategories of these, but we're just gonna say it's one to keep it simple, and it's sufficient for this case. So this is an enzyme in the body which makes dihydrotestosterone, DHT, from testosterone. So it makes out of testosterone it makes 5-alpha reductase, it makes DHT. So when we use 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, we basically decrease the production of this enzyme, and we basically decrease our DHT levels in the body. So this, on the other hand, also leads to an increase in testosterone, testo plus, and thus it also leads to an increase in estrogen. So it's most commonly E2 in the body plus. Why? Because there's another enzyme in the body called aromatase, which converts testosterone into estrogen. So you have more testosterone, and then you also have more testosterone that can bind to aromatase and then being converted to estrogen. So this is basically where the big problem with 5-alpha reductase inhibitors come. So basically you really crash your DHT levels, and DHT is basically also very important, or let's say the whole balance between androgens and estrogens is very important, especially for men, because androgens, especially DHT, is there for, like, it gives you drive and motivation, it develops male characteristics. So there are a lot of side effects that come with it and can come with it that are mainly, quickly talk about side effects here. So of course one big thing is erectile dysfunctions, because you need androgens to get an erection, okay? And libido also too. ED and libido. Then another very big factor, because now that you have lower levels of DHT, more levels of estrogen, and the balance of androgens and estrogens is kind of more leading to estrogen now, you can develop gynecomastia, which is basically breast tissue development in men, okay? Gyno. So, on top of that, because the androgens, especially the DHT, is also there for giving the drive, the masculine, the aggressiveness, so you can easily also just go get depression. And if it's not depression, low mood is basically, another side effect, and this is not even if you can even consider it a side effect, because you just crash your DHT levels, and then these hormones are there for giving you this, and you most definitely gonna get a little bit of mellowing out. Another big thing, it can also lead to a decrease in sperm count and sperm quality. Big point. So, a lot of side effects, which kind of basically you can see the correlation between all of them, and this is basically very, very undesirable. So, quick note that I forgot to mention is when we talk about 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, we talk about finasteride, I'm gonna write it here, finasteride and dutasteride, which is a more potent form of an 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. Dutasteride. So there are more 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, but these are basically what you can get prescribed for this case. So for this, we could potentially do or go an off-label use route, which would be making a topical solution out of this, okay? So let's say here, off-label. Topical solution. Topical. So this way we can try to keep the effect localized, so that we decrease the DHT levels in our scalp directly without decreasing the the serum DHT levels in our bloodstream to a significant extent, okay? Keep in mind, everything that you apply topically will go systemic to a certain extent, okay? But this way, we could potentially limit the decrease in serum DHT, thus avoiding side effects, okay? And that will be it about 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. This is all a very basic understanding of all of this, but for the start it should be sufficient. Okay, and now we come to the second treatment option you have, which are basically androgen receptor antagonists. What these do is basically they bind to the androgen receptor at the hair follicle, without the gene transcription, and then the actual androgens, which would cause the miniaturization of the hair follicle, aren't able to bind to the receptor. So it basically blocks the androgen receptor, AR. So now all the androgens, testosterone, DHT, another point, all the androgens are now blocked to bind to the receptor, not only DHT, okay? So could be useful if you're into using anabolics. But when it comes to anabolics, all this shit gets a little bit more complicated. If you want me to do a video on that, I would gladly do it. Just write it in the comments. So it blocks the androgen receptor directly, and the huge advantage to this is that it does not affect your serum androgens. Like, it doesn't decrease your DHT, doesn't increase your testosterone and estrogen, whatever. Basically has zero impact on that, okay? So, big plus, no influence on hormones directly. So, now you may think, wow, oh my god, this sounds like a even better option than the 5-alpha reductase inhibition, and I'm gonna go that road. So now comes a big point. Basically, right now, there's not a single androgen receptor antagonist that is FDA approved on the market, okay? So basically everything in that category that you would source would be sourced as a research chemical, okay? So I'm gonna list some options too, because there are a lot of people that use it, but again, all these chemicals, they don't have extensive clinical studies. Some do have some, and they're relatively safe to say that they are like well tolerated. So for this category, I'm now gonna list some options, which you then can do a little bit further research on if you like. But let's say here options would be one would actually be something that is basically approved to use, but it has like a very small effect. So I wouldn't solely rely on this. And this is ketoconazole. This is like a it's an anti-dandruff shampoo, and it's like it's an antifungal, you know, but it has the property that it also binds to the androgen receptor, okay? But this will only be like a small effect, okay? So keto so that for one, and then I'm gonna list there a multitude of like chemicals in research of that, and basically they're all non-steroidal anti-androgens. I'm gonna just make it short, non-steroidal anti-androgens. So there are no steroids, but they bind to the androgen receptor, okay? So, and there we have, most famously known is RU58841. Then we have glutamate, which is also used by some people. And then we also have CB0301. Okay? Again, these are all non-steroidal anti-androgens, and they basically work the same. Okay, now we come to the last treatment option category. Why do I say category, even though it's like one compound? Is because there's only one in this category. So what is minoxidil? Minoxidil is basically a vasodilator, which means it dilates your blood vessels, make them relax, and improve kind of blood circulation. So it was researched and kind of invented for the use to treat hypertension, okay? Hypertension treatment. But what they found when they did the clinical studies is that a side effect actually was excessive hair growth, okay? So then they thought like, okay, we can possibly use it for hair loss, right? So now what is FDA approved is the topical use of minoxidil for hair loss. So yeah, you have a topical solution, put it in your hair, and this basically increases the blood circulation to your hair follicles, okay? This is basically the main mechanism behind it. So increase blood flow, and thus also the nutrient delivery to the hair follicle, okay, which is very important. Flow to hair. Okay. So now this leads to two things, okay? First, you will get stronger hair follicles, and second of all, you will get more, or you will have a longer anagen phase, growth phase, and you will have more hair in the growth phase, okay? So one big problem with minoxidil is that a lot of people that try to use only minoxidil, which is a big mistake, because what does minoxidil not do? Minoxidil does not, very important, it does not do anything against androgens, which is the main reason you're losing your hair, or which is the only reason you're losing your hair, okay? Oh, sorry, does not combat androgens. So this, in the beginning, when you start using minoxidil and you have androgenic alopecia, you will see a big improvement. That you think like, oh yeah, it really works. But the gradual, again coming back to the difference between telogen effluvium and androgenic alopecia, the gradual miniaturization of the hair follicles still continues. So after a couple months, you will notice, oh, now I'm still losing my hair, or the losing of the hair continues, okay? So we will have, in the beginning, an increase in aesthetic hair density or whatever, but the actual hair loss will continue. So, only use in combination with anti-androgens in whatever way. If it is through 5-alpha reductase inhibition or through the androgen receptor antagonism, you can utilize both, okay? Anti-androgens. And with the minoxidil, you can also do an off-label use, which would be, instead of using it topically, you use it orally. Why are people doing this? Because minoxidil has a short half-life of a couple of hours, which basically makes the optimal usage like twice daily. So you would have to use it in the morning and in the evening, which if you have hair on your head and you're gonna smear like alcohol based or whatever, there are also foams of it, but you basically smear shit in your hair that basically makes your hair greasy and whatever. So for a lot of people, it's much more convenient to just take a pill 1 or 2 times a day, okay? But this comes with an increased risk of side effects, okay? And with minoxidil, the main side effect risks are kind of cardiovascular nature, okay? Because again, it's a vasodilator and it will have a small impact on your blood pressure, okay? And this can lead to heart palpitations or whatever, because yeah, your cardiovascular system has to adapt a little bit, okay? Another treatment option that is easily accessible for people is microneedling, which also will have a synergistic effect with other treatment options, okay, especially with minoxidil. So if you use microneedling together with minoxidil, possibly also other topical things you use as anti-androgens, will have a synergistic effect in terms of increasing the penetration of the epidermis. Okay, so it will easier or more of it will get to the actual hair follicles. Okay, so for microneedling, quickly advantages: synergistic effect, synergy with topicals, making them more effective. And what we have is like a release of growth factors, and we of course have increased blood flow to the hair follicles. Blood flow. So we have microneedling as another option, which I did list in the beginning. And then we also have some other options, which I'm going to quickly list here, but I'm not going to talk about it in any way because it's like more niche and not really easily accessible, okay? So, but microneedling, it's relatively easy to do at home, okay? So, other things you can do is PRP, platelet-rich plasma. Would need to do injections. Again, it's like a little bit crazy, and if you really want to do it, look more into it. It does have it is quite effective, I have to say. Stem cells, another thing, and red light therapy, okay, but this is something more, it's probably not going to do much, okay, it's not very effective, and I don't know what the study said about this, okay. Okay, now I want to talk about something that I kind of see as a trap for many people, okay? Why do I say a trap? And why do I separate natural options from the other options? Is because all these natural options, none of them have like 100% proven mechanism of action, okay? Because all of them are basically suggested to have this effect or suggested to have that effect, okay? It's not proven, okay? So, no proven efficacy. And the second thing is all these natural options basically also are thought to have the same mechanisms as the other 100% proven to be effective drugs, okay? So basically all these natural options are 90% also 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, or thought to be those, okay? So basically do the same. And now you think like, okay, I can use a drugs where I can manipulate the dosage and the actual effect and know that I'm gonna get this specific effect, or you can take natural options where you maybe get a little bit of an effect like this, okay? And I can 100% guarantee you, if you have male pattern baldness, androgenic alopecia, whatever you want to call it now, if you only use natural options, that it's not gonna do shit for you, okay? So now quickly talking about some options, okay? made a small list here. So we have things like saw palmetto, we have lion's mane, we have rosemary oil, other essential oils, pumpkin seed oil, etc., etc. Also caffeine. Caffeine, which will have like a different effect, not an anti-androgenic effect, but this is more comparable to minoxidil maybe, but yeah, it's also, again, basically not gonna do much, if anything at all, okay? So, the only thing I would do with like natural options is if you make your own solutions of whatever, maybe you make topical finasteride, maybe you make something like the RU58841. Another quick thing, I'm not a doctor, I'm not suggesting anything, do your own research, okay? I'm just a guy on the internet, okay? So, if you make your own solutions, you of course have your solvent to dissolve the actual compound, but then why not just use like rosemary oil or other essential oils, pumpkin seed oil as a carrier oil on top of that, okay? But anything more than that, I would just completely ignore this, okay? So, a quick little summary of what we basically need to keep in mind if we have androgenic alopecia, which you have if you're a man and you lose your hair. It's like 98%, just a guess, that you have androgenic alopecia, okay? And most important, what you need to keep in mind is the need to combat androgens at the hair follicle, okay, to be specific. So, this is a base of everything you need to do when you combat androgenic alopecia, okay? Then, the treatment options we have is 5-alpha reductase inhibition, whether you try to do locally or systemically. And there, also very important to understand what you're actually doing with like lowering DHT and shifting the balance of androgens to estrogens, okay? Need to understand this balance of androgen to estrogens. Then the second option to combat the androgens is the androgen receptor AR antagonism. And there we have to understand that basically everything we do is based upon research chemicals, and we're doing everything at our own risk, okay? Like limited research, let's say. So then we have minoxidil, which I personally would in every case utilize on top of that, okay? But again, not a standalone treatment. No standalone treatment. Very important. But yeah, this is basically the base of everything you can do, okay? Whether it's a combination of everything will probably be the most effective. Then we can also say micro needling. We have the minoxidil, and what I nearly forgot, a big point, don't get fooled by promises of natural solutions. Again, like the rosemary oil, salt palmetto or whatever, you know. Don't get fooled, don't get ripped off, and don't waste time and hair trying to use these things, okay, without these. Okay, don't get fooled. Don't get fooled by natural treatments. Alright. And yeah, this is a brief overview of everything you can do and need to know. But now you understand the basic mechanism of what's happening when you're losing your hair. And yeah, let me know if it was helpful, and let me know if you have any tips for making the video quality better, and any other questions or critics, let me know in the comments, would appreciate it. And yeah, see you next time.